What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ice Brice Baby. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about second-year player for the Utah Jazz, Brice Sensabaugh, who over his last couple of games has looked like one of the most polished scorers in the NBA. In his games against Miami and Orlando, he recorded 61 points while shooting 62% from the field and about 71% from three. He is seeing such a massively increased role because the Jazz have been without a handful of players for the last couple of days. Lauri Markkanen has been out, Keontae George has been out, Jordan Clarkson has been out. Even Sensabaugh at the time of this recording is listed as questionable for the team's game against Atlanta. There simply is really limited options for them offensively. Now, for those familiar with Sensabaugh's game, this isn't necessarily a surprise to them. However, shooting this efficiently is definitely shocking and won't persist just because he's a guard. He's a smaller guard at that, and there's just no guard that's going to shoot 60% from the field for the entire year. But anyway, Sensabaugh in college, he spent 1 year at Ohio State. This is very reminiscent to that season when he was with the Buckeyes. He was, I think, eighth in scoring in the conference at like 16 points per game. He shot better than 40% from three as well. This kid just knows how to score the basketball. And I haven't done one of these in a while. I haven't done a film study in longer than I would have liked to. And I think that this is quality film to look at because despite him being just 21 years old, there are so many solid fundamentals that he has as a scorer. It's just really a treat to watch because he plays well beyond his years. It'd be different if he were a second year NBA player, but also a 4 year college player. That amount of development is obviously going to come through at some point, but Sensabaugh is showing that he can have the ability to be like a 20, 22 points per game guy for the remainder of his career. More importantly, he has cemented himself, I think, as someone who has the potential to be a legitimate shot creator on a very high quality team at some point down the line. As we've seen, teams need someone who can come off the bench as a sixth or a seventh man and just put in a bunch of points. Additionally, if at some point, I'm speculating way out to the middle stages of his career, but if he gets to a point where he is on a team that can make a deep playoff run, at some point that team is going to need someone who could take shots away from their first option because it's just not feasible to ask players to do that much on offense. Every contending team needs a guy who can create a few shots every now and then. Jason Tatum needs Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown need someone like Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis. But Brice Sensabaugh, as a shooter, as a scorer, his footwork, his awareness, his ability to just know to read the defense and know where he has to be to get a specific type of shot is just really impressive for a 21 year. Let's stop the rambling. We're going to go ahead. We're going to look into it. We're not going to dissect every made shot over these last two games because there's really no need for it. But there are more than a few that I want to highlight. One skill set that every elite spot up shooter has mastered is the art of shot readiness. Shot readiness is exactly what it sounds like. It means that as soon as you receive the pass from the ball handler, you're ready to get a shot off. This is being square to the basket, your feet square to the basket. It means just getting down in your stance a little bit, having your hands ready to receive the pass in your pocket. Sensabaugh is here in the corner. He goes ahead and slides up. This pass from Colin Sexton. Sensabaugh is ready for it. And Sexton knows that Sensabaugh is ready for it. You can see his hands. He's not waiting for the ball to get to him. He is actively receiving the ball from Sexton. So that way, there's a minimal drop. All he has to do is bring his right foot in. He steps into it, or he hops into it in this one. But this is spectacular. Like, this skill set alone can make you a ton of money in the NBA. having elite spot up shooters, not even in the NBA, but just on your high school team, or if you want to have, if you're putting together a college team that you want to succeed, like this is a role that every basketball team needs. This play right here highlights Sensabaugh's screen navigation. He's guarded by Duncan Robinson. Jaime Jaquez is up top guarding the screener. The screener comes down. They elect not to switch this screen. Robinson goes underneath. So instead of extending himself to above the wing, Sensabaugh just stays where he is, slightly above the corner. Right? There's no need to continue running towards Sexton if Robinson isn't trailing. He's trying to get under the screen. There's all this open space right here. And then Sensabaugh is going to drift into the corner to create a little bit of extra space on this shot because there's no one in his airspace. Jaime Jaquez is not closing out hard. He's not closing out at all. Duncan Robinson is not quick to get over the screen. So he's able to get a relatively uncontested jumper. This is another instance of shot readiness. This is terrific awareness of where you are in the shot clock. 6 seconds left right here. Sensabaugh knows that if he does get a pass in this instance, there's going to be little time for him to dribble and create that way. So instead, and you could see he's sliding, he's shuffling over, trying to keep himself towards the basket. His hands, he flashes them. It's a good pass right into the shooting pocket. There is a little bit of dip on his jump shot, but again, let's not forget that this guy is he's a 2-year player who's still only 21 years old. Like if there's only that little of a dip in his jump shot, there's really not much more for it to improve. Like it's not something that has to be tweaked right now because it's detrimental to his game. Some more outstanding recognition of knowing how to attack this defense. So he doesn't get the dribble handoff. It's a shovel pass. Now, you could fight over this screen in theory, yes, but you're just being funneled into the defense. If you reject it like he does here, you're free to take the baseline. Now, Sensabaugh is not the most athletic player. He's not the quickest player. Even still, he's able to get a step on his man and force this foul. So he comes up. At some point, he'll come up, fake the handoff. The defender is overplaying. He's out of position. And that's just a free lane to the basket. This does result in an and one as well. These are things that scorers just understand. Great scorers, whether they're, a guy who averages 30 or there's someone who averages like 13 points in 18 minutes, they just understand space. They understand angles. They know how to read the defense in order to get the best possible shot for them. And there's going to come a point in Brice Sensabaugh's career where he has a set of go-to moves. And then he's going to be even harder to guard because he knows how to get to his spot and the defender doesn't. And Sensabaugh is going to know how to get to his spot from these very specific instances. Another instance of not forcing it. I really like to highlight instances like these with young players because it's just so easy for them to get caught up in doing what's wrong. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of being a young player. Like you're going to have instances where you drive into two defenders, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because if you do it and you're on a competent team with a solid coaching staff, they can coach you through that moment and say, in this instance, if you don't have to dribble into two people, right? Like let's say you're a young player who continues to push this ball into the corner and it gets stripped and the team goes the other way. You have the ability to be coached where you do what Sensabaugh does here and spins back into the middle where you're continuing to play one-on-one. Now, this is a terrific shot, but still, the point remains. Get the ball back into the middle. You can either pass out to the corner and reset because you still have 10 seconds on the shot clock, or when you're up by damn near 40 points, you could take a wacky shot like this. Especially if you're in an instance like Sensabaugh is right now, and you're feeling it. You had like 34 this game or something. Like, just keep shooting. Who cares? I wanted to highlight his performances against Miami and Orlando because they showcase two different types of scoring ability. Against Miami, there really wasn't a lot of one-on-one shot creation. I mean, there was a fair amount, but a lot of it was playing in the flow of the offense, playing off the ball, being someone who's cutting and working around screens. In Orlando, there was a lot more freedom for Sensabaugh to create off the dribble, which is a little weird, especially considering how elite of a defense Orlando is. But that's also part of it, right? If you're a scorer and the team elects to guard you one on one and take away all of your options, like we've seen teams do, especially when it comes to like LeBron in the playoffs. I'm not saying, obviously not comparing these two, but it's a defensive philosophy. If a team's going to elect to play you one on one, you have to capitalize on these chances. This is your archetype. Sensabaugh has scored 60 some odd points in these games and has 2 assists. He's out there to get buckets. He is not expected to swing the rock at all. This is a situation that Michael Porter Jr. could only dream of. And Sensabaugh is capitalizing on all of these opportunities. Okay, so we have this play right here. I don't know if it's semi-transition or if it's off of a miss. At any rate, Orlando's half-court defense is not set. As you can see, there are only 6 players on this side of the court, which means that everyone else is trailing. Sensabaugh, as you can see right here, is one of the trailers in this instance. He gets matched up on Wendell Carter as opposed to somebody like Anthony Black. Now, look at how Sensabaugh takes advantage of Wendell Carter's positioning and also his size, because Carter does have the size advantage, but that's not necessarily helpful on the perimeter when it's more important to be agile than big. So if you look at his feet right here, his left foot is the lead foot. He's funneling Sensabaugh to not only the middle of the defense into his help, but also to Sensabaugh's non-dominant hand. What he does is, and I've talked about this in a bunch of film studies before, is he attacks the lead foot, because if you get the step on your defender when they're in this stance, they're not able to turn their hips around and beat you to the spot. It's just a matter of anatomy, physiology, whatever fucking scientific term it is. They do not have those capabilities. So you can blow by your man like this, especially if you already have the advantage of being the the person with the lower center of gravity. So he blows by Wendell Carter Jr., and this is the easiest bucket that he gets all game. But he's also quick. He's decisive. He sees the closeout, he attacks right away. He doesn't allow Carter to square him up defensively. He knows, I can beat this guy off the dribble. I'm not going to shoot over him. He has no help on the backside if I drive baseline, recognizing the defense, attacking, and getting the shot that you want to get. Another instance of this, we get a little pick and roll action right here, which is interesting. So Sensabaugh's man gets knocked down. Cole Anthony comes up. Not really that great defensive effort, but also this is great. Like, you're settling in to where the defense is not. There's no reason to push further deep. There's no reason to get another dribble or two and have Goga Batadze block your shot. But this is also one of the last shots that scorers really develop, is that in-between game, mid-range floater. So seeing this at this young of an age, it just pushes his ceiling even higher, because it's one less thing that you have to work on, but it's also a shot that he's comfortable with taking. This clip right here, straight bag work. One-on-one, isolation, end of the shot clock. My offense is better than your defense. Not an instance that you want coming up all the time unless you're James Harden in 2017, but sometimes these instances are going to arise, especially if you have this skill set. Your coach is going to ask you to just go out and get a bucket every once in a while. So Sensabaugh receives at the top of the key. The screen does not come, whatever reason, doesn't want it, doesn't need it, whatever. We're going to let this guy go to work. Sometimes, especially at younger ages, players just dribble with no intention. They're just on the three-point line, doing all these dribble moves and not getting anywhere. With every through-the-legs dribble Sensabaugh does, he inches closer and closer to the three-point line. It may seem simple because it is, but this act, you can gauge how the defender is going to play you off of that alone. If you're backing up like Jet Howard is here, you're going to have space for the three-point shot. If Jet Howard is looking to force Sensabaugh into the paint, he would be creeping up. He wouldn't be ceding ground in this instance. So just watch, couple dribbles. It's also key to notice where Howard's hands are. They are not up. This is not where you want them, by the way. You just keep your hands up, guys. Just play defense with your hands up. This is also an advantage for Sensabaugh to get his shot off because Jett Howard isn't in a position to swipe at or block this shot. So you get these little size up moves. That is what individual offense is all about. That is what sizing up is all about. And all of the great scorers do this. They understand that you have a better chance of getting a bucket if you dictate how the defense plays. Basketball it's an ongoing battle of the offense and the defense trying to dictate to each other how we're going to play. More often than not, the team that dictates the play style is the team that's going to win because the team doing so is doing it in a way that's better for them. We're going back in time to the early 2000s thanks to LiAngelo Ball and his new track. But there's just something really satisfying about high quality execution on offense out of the triple threat. It's something that all great scorers understand is necessary, but is also something that unfortunately sometimes gets overlooked in skill work. I remember I watched a video with Damian Lillard. He was talking about if you could teach a young player 3 go-to moves, what would it be? One, he said, was obviously a crossover, but another one was jab steps, being able to play out of the triple threat. You can get a shot off without even having to dribble. I mean, Carmelo Anthony, as great of a scorer as he is, generated countless buckets for himself just knowing how to jab, front jabs, side jabs. This is one of those instances. So Cole Anthony switches out onto Sensabaugh here. He doesn't take his first dribble until he's ready to go to the basket. It's this little shimmy, like you can see it freezes Cole Anthony. He has no idea how to guard this. He gets stood up because it's just like, what do you like? How are you gonna defend that? You have to be an elite defensive player to. Well, I don't want to say you have to be elite, but you have to be a very good defensive player to stay disciplined when someone is handing out triple threat moves. So that's going to do it. I really don't have anything else to say. I don't really have much more film to watch of Sensabaugh either, but it's clear that he's deserving of a role with Utah over the long term. I mean, he fills what is a very important role for any team looking to build a contender. You just don't find scorers, like professional scorers, that frequently. I mean, they have Lauri Markkanen. You get a couple 3-and-D guys, a couple floor spacers. You already have Walker Kessler as well. I mean, just looking a few years down the line, if this core is able to stay together and everyone's able to reach their ceilings, like this, there's a lot to be excited about in Utah. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on it. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those 3 things, you will become my new favorite person. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one.